Disney seem to be lurching from disaster to disaster, which isn't great when they've had the same CEO since 2005. Well, except for the dark times.
People love to get out there and say Disney's too woke, Disney's become too politically correct. Are they right? Do they have a point?
We want our content to reflect the rich, diverse world that we live in.
And even then, the guy was also called Bob and consulted with Iger himself, so he might as well just cloned himself in the CEO position for a couple of years. So it's not great then, when Disney are getting sued by their investors over an alleged cost-shifting scheme. Yeah, you know how we told you that Disney Plus would be profitable? Well, to do that, we've got to take all of the costs of Disney Plus and move it over here, so that this area of the business is profitable. I can see why they'd be mad, but when you've had one guy ruling over the company for this long, all of the problems are basically your fault. This is your vision, your legacy. You're the one who carries the can. So if your company is lurching from disaster to disaster, there's only one person to blame, because you haven't solved any of the problems. And sure, you're getting sued over Disney Plus, but you're also losing millions of subscribers, cutting thousands of jobs, and losing billions of dollars. And what's your great plan as the CEO to turn all of this around? Well, I mean, we could go back and ruin people's childhoods. Disney has a remake problem. Everything's reimagined for a modern audience, which means we take what people loved and destroy it. And then we've got The Little Mermaid coming up, a movie where the trailers have been almost universally panned. They're changing the songs for, well, because Hollywood executives can't control themselves, and so they just assume everyone else in the world is like that as well. A movie where the trailer got absolutely annihilated with 322,000 upvotes to 2 million downvotes. Fans were left horrified by Flounder, and yet still, even with all of this, an actor came out and went, well, I just don't see the problem. I mean, it may have horrified critics, but you know, when he was shown the design in an audition, he just thought, yeah, it really, really works. I thought the people were geniuses, and they knew exactly what they were doing. If there's a problem, and you don't see the problem, that's not something to brag about. Being part of the entertainment industry and not being able to see glaring problems in your own production isn't something to brag about. And yet that is exactly the problem that Disney has. Sure, Bob may have been the CEO since 2005, except for the dark years.
We're a few months out from the controversy in Florida. What do you think you did right, and what do you think you did wrong? What are the lessons you've drawn from that?
I think the lesson is the lesson that we probably always knew, which is at Disney, it's all about the cast.
If you have people dragging your company down, and you don't do anything about them, then is it any wonder when you lose billions of dollars and millions of subscribers?
Well, what I would say is that we were reminded through the passion of our cast reaction how important their sentiments are on these issues.
Because so far, it looks like Disney is more focused on covering up the problem than it is on finding solutions for them. At its core, that's what this lawsuit alleges, that it was covering up how much Disney Plus was actually losing, rather than trying to make it profitable in the first place. That now, randomly, they're dropping all of Echo on the same day for the first time ever. And you have to ask why. If you're losing millions of subscribers, surely you want your subscribers to stay subscribed for as many months as possible. That's how you remain profitable. And so a weekly release that goes on for multiple months is obviously a better release strategy. As long as your show's good, anyway. Because if it's bad, not only do people stop watching, but every single week, there's more news about, have you heard what Echo's done this week? It's a disaster. Because that's what you had with Willow.
Make it stop.
Stop shaking. Avocado.
You say avocado? That's the spell that did this.
Avocado.
Why, when you were causing a mountain of lava to erupt, did you try to explode it over your friends? That's what you had with Velma.
Not only are you brilliant, who more than you would appreciate the advantages of being a handsome, rich white man?
And yet if you dump it out on one day, everybody just laughs at it. And then within 3 days, it's onto a different news cycle. It doesn't seem like confidence to me. It seems like you're trying to quietly dump something, and so everybody forgets about it. Instead of making a good show, it seems to me to be, how can we hide this bad one? And what are your products, if not simply a reflection of the quality of the people that you hire?
They mess everything up because of their lazy entitlement and fragile egos.
And if you've spent years hiring your people not based off merit, but almost any other criteria, you will inevitably have a staff that will drag the company down from where it should have been, if only you'd hired all of the best people for the job. And boy, will they drag the company down, because the CEO himself is interested in new technologies. How can we advance into the future? He says that AI has major potential and could be highly disruptive. It represents some interesting opportunities and could yield substantial benefits. Indeed, other companies like Ubisoft and gaming are already using AI to write dialogue themselves. Netflix has already partially made an anime using AI already. So the idea that you can put AI back in the box is insanity. It's here, it's going to change things, and your only solution is to find ways to work around it. Otherwise, you're just going to get left behind. Because let's say Hollywood banned it tomorrow, nowhere else in the world would. And so Hollywood would simply become a shadow of the shadow it already is. Of course, that is coming from a neutral perspective, somebody who's not affected by it. But that should also be Disney's approach, the CEO's approach. If only they weren't being affected by the people that they've got within their company. People in industries have been replaced by robots for decades now. This has been happening since the Industrial Revolution over 100 years ago, and yet still, for some reason, people are amazed that it's happening. What, was it fine when it was happening to the manual labor, but now it's happening to the creatives and everyone's losing their minds? Because I don't know if you've noticed right now, but there's a writer's strike going on. And I'm not being facetious either. Even the media is asking, there's a writer's strike on, but will viewers even notice? Yeah, it was a big deal in 2007, but does anybody care now? Look, these are the same people that gave you Peter Pan and Wendy. Surely you want them to get paid more and guaranteed hours and every other demand they could possibly have asked for. These are the same people writing jokes about the British royal family into The Little Mermaid, because guess what? They prefer Meghan Markle. Look, these are Hollywood writers. People think it's not statistically possible, but it is possible to be on the wrong side of literally every topic ever. That's why their demands are so insane. They want things like 13-week work guarantees, despite the fact that we may not need you to work 13 weeks because it's not that big a show. Or they want minimum numbers of writers in the writer's room increasing as the episodes go up, because they want more money. But there's also so many writers right now, the supply greatly outstrips the demand, and their solution is to just create false demand. We're going to create false demand and then demand a minimum wage, which will not only take money from the better writers to subsidize the worse ones, but now, with forced minimums, you're actually watering down the talent level over the writer's room as well. Before, you could have had a series masterpiece that was led under the vision of the best writers that you could possibly find. Maybe it was just two writers that made everything. Everything linked up together. The story flowed perfectly because it came from just one or two people. Well, not anymore. Okay, sure, maybe in that room there are two genius writers that come up with a great plot, and then you've got the other 6 people to water it down and bring up problems with it. We could have Peter Pan come in and be the hero and save everyone, or we could just get Wendy to come in and save him, because after all, patriarchy.
Hang on! Don't let go!
This magic belongs to no boy.
Hey, call me a cynic, but just forcefully hiring more people into a writer's room not only makes it remarkably easy to make sure you've got all of those tick boxes signed off, which will come in especially handy for all of those award ceremonies which require it in order to even be considered for an award in the first place, but now there'll always be sensitivity readers on hand. You know, the low-skilled people who look over the shoulders of their betters and go, you can't do that. Somebody might get offended. And yet these are the same people that good old Bob hired within his company. He let stay there for years. Sure, they've driven Marvel into the ground, but you know, they're writers and we need them for some reason. We definitely couldn't hire people from elsewhere. And just think, if they can't write a TV show or a movie that makes any sense, do you think they're going to make sense in real life either? Because Bob himself seems to love AI. It's going to be highly disruptive. We've got to have this. And with the writer's strike affecting your content output, surely you'll be looking at this even more. This is how you stay in business. It's stopping your shows like Andor or your pathetic remakes like Blade. As an aside, makes it even stranger that they're releasing all of Echo in one go, doesn't it? If you've got a strike which is stopping you making new content, wouldn't you try and extend the content you already have longer, rather than dumping it all in one go? It makes Echo look even worse than it did before. But no, all signs lead to AI being a great advantage when it comes to writing, which may be one of the reasons that the WGA immediately want it banned. Yep, AI can't write or rewrite literary material, can't be used as source material, and you can't use our covered material to train the AI. Now, if you've made a load of terrible shows where everyone complained about the writing, and then the writers come along and go, no, you can't do this, you can't use this new technology to replace us, surely the response would be, yeah, bye. Bye! I mean, personally, I'm not sure you have the leverage there that you think you do. But there's all these other weird articles coming out to try and desperately support the writer's point of view. For instance, The Wrap came out and said, "Oh, viewers are wary of the studio's use of AI in film and TV scripts. Survey finds is the exclusive because nobody else would take the story. Please, find these viewers for me. I would love to hear them talk." Yeah, as the strike enters its third week, a new survey exclusively shared with us finds broad concerns over AI. More than 2/3 express concern about the use of AI in Hollywood, and to me, it's a warning sign of a potential backlash if studios are seen using AI specifically for the strike. I have absolutely no idea who commissioned the survey, but I think I might be able to guess. And remember, this whole AI thing is a massive deal for the strike. It's one of the main reasons they're actually striking. Now, Adam Conover here has been a major part of the strike, and he's been a bit of a frontman for the strike, making lots of videos right at the start of it, all of which can be found on his Twitter, and why I think he's a good example of the attitudes within the WGA when it comes to AI in the first place, because he made this post going, "Jacobin gets it. Thank you for telling our story about what's really happening in this negotiation." And if you go through to the article, the writers are striking to stop the destruction of their profession. This isn't just about higher wages or baking in talentless people into the writer's room. No, this is about the entire destruction of their profession. This is about AI replacing them in the workplace. Strikers say they had no choice to walk as new technology put their very livelihood in serious danger. We thought banning AI would be an easy layup for them, since AI is not currently usable in any shape or form, and it's not even clear if the output is copyrightable. It's like, hey, if you ask someone not to shoot me, and the person goes, "I'm not going to agree to that," you're like, wait, I didn't think you were going to do that, but now you're refusing not to. I'm worried that you're going to do it. It's actually a perfectly reasonable position if you think that AI is going to replace you, if you think it is good, if you think it can do what you do, then being scared of it is perfectly legitimate because it's coming for your jobs. The weird thing is asking for it to be banned if you think it's actually not usable in any shape or form. If it's not usable, if it's crap, if it can't compete with what you do, then why do you want it banned in the first place? Why will you go on strike to get it banned if it's crap? And Adam does think it's crap because he made this video on his channel like roughly a month ago or so, where he said this.
Because that's what humans do. We create new things. We think new thoughts. We discover new facts about the universe. That is what separates us from other living things. And that is what separates us from the AI. What a pathetic joke to even call what these things do intelligence to begin with.
And if you're confused, you're in the same boat I am. As far as I can tell, the WGA are striking to ban AI because it's so dangerous it's going to destroy their entire profession, while also being so crap that it couldn't possibly replace them. You can't possibly imitate what we're doing, and that's why we need to ban you so you can't replace us with AI, which you're definitely going to do if we don't stop you replacing us, even though it's impossible to replace us with the AI. When that is the real-life logic of Hollywood writers, you can understand why their fiction doesn't make any sense either. And so, when you've got the writers on one side, directly at war with the CEO of the company, which thinks it has major potential, is highly disruptive, and has substantial benefits, you have to ask, why has the CEO never gotten a grip on its employees before? Why have they let them run rampant, rule the company, drag down all of their IPs to the point where Disney is a laughingstock, and every single one of their remakes, every single time they go back to one of their old IPs, it's met with utter disdain. People dread it because they know their childhood is about to be destroyed. These are the people dragging down your company, and yet the CEO, even when he utterly disagrees with them, still doesn't seem to be able to get them in line. But hey, if he hasn't done anything about it in 18 years, why would he start now? Of course, there is a solution to the AI problem, and it's one the writers have proposed themselves, because their strike action only specifically refers to it doing jobs where they would be the ones doing the work. They don't care about anyone else. Yeah, who knew that collective action actually just meant, please, protect me, sir, protect me. Do whatever you want to that guy over there in the company, but just leave me alone. And this attitude actually seems to have wide report. It's definitely suggested by Variety over here. When the corporate media come out with ideas to sort of mediate a truce between the two, kind of think, maybe it's a bit of a hint of some of the thinking going on behind the scenes, because when it comes to what writers and studios must iron out to settle on the AI debate, they list the WGA demands. They kept dropping the fear factors. Oh, maybe AI writing isn't as good as human writing. Yeah, maybe AI will only get a 10% audience score, or a 1%. Oh no, wait, Jada already pulled that one off, didn't she? Don't need AI for that one. And said that, oh well, without a human editing it, it may not be copyrightable. This led to them, just a day later, coming out with a different article about how AI will revolutionize streaming, where as soon as we're not talking about AI writing any of this entertainment, suddenly it's amazing. Not only is it great for recommendations, but it could even be used for AI dubbing. Look, the AI could be used not only as translation services, but even the voices could be used to dub it themselves. Sure, AI voices had issues with tone at first, but machine learning is improving daily, and soon it'll replace all of the translators and the voice actors, and that's fine for some reason. It's not fine when we change the writers. It is fine when we get rid of everybody else. Let's just throw them under the bus and protect our writers. You really have to ask yourself, why is the corporate media so enthusiastic about AI when it's about all those other jobs, but so desperate to protect the writers of the content in the first place? Could it be that the writers control what the content is and the ideas that go into it? Those ideas that we just support so much? If only we can protect this core of the entertainment industry, then we can control everything that comes out of it. When you compare it to that, translators and dubbers they just don't have that much power. We can throw those people under the bus and get away with it. We just need to protect the vanguard. I mean, this article is so pro-AI, they're even up for deepfake technology where we can just have actors do whatever they want for us. They don't even care about the actors, just the writers. With that in mind, everything just becomes a little more mask off, doesn't it? Because they are right. In fact, Apple has already tried this, training voices on Spotify's audiobooks before, which was apparently only stopped after a backlash. A backlash which, if you read the article, turns out to be from the Voice Actors Union. Yeah, all of that collective action just turns out to be every man for himself. And I can't help but see all of Disney's problems linked together. We are getting sued over an alleged cost-shifting scheme because Disney Plus wasn't profitable, and yet we wanted to make it seem like it was. But why wasn't it? Why are millions of subscribers leaving in one market and hundreds of thousands of people leaving in the domestic market? Well, it's because Disney Plus doesn't have the quality content that they want to stay. The value that people are getting for their money isn't being given back to them. And I think most people will agree that comes down from the writers themselves. The very people standing in the way of AI, which could improve the quality of the product being made and get back subscribers and make Disney Plus profitable. The staff are the ones blocking it, and they're the same ones so devoid of creativity that we keep going back to old IPs, to things that were done in the past by people before us who actually had talent. They made things like The Little Mermaid, they made things like Peter Pan, and they made it good. And then the new crop of writers comes along and ruins them. All of Disney's problems come down the staff which have been hired, and force Disney to go from disaster to disaster, simply looking for how they cope with that current disaster, rather than actually improving and building into the future. They're coming up with new ways to hide the current crisis, rather than thinking how they can avoid the next one. But of all the most interesting ways to hide the current crisis, there is one that I agree with the WGA on, and that is when it comes down to their residuals. Because what they're proposing with residuals is to establish a viewer-based metric to reward programs with greater viewership, but this requires transparency when it comes to how many views a show has. This was outright rejected by the companies. Now, before the strike, I had no idea how residuals worked, really didn't affect me. And so when I saw things like this, didn't really make any sense to me. Why are we removing content? Like, this is content you've already paid for. Why would you want to remove it from your Disney Plus service as well as attempt to increase the cost? Because then you're just giving customers less value while demanding more money for it. It didn't make any sense. Until you find out about the residuals anyway. It turns out that current residuals are calculated based off a service's current domestic subscriber total. There's a sliding scale, multiple tiers, alongside a graph of how much people get depending on the length of time of the show and the budgets involved. The most interesting part here is if you base it off your subscribers, actual success of the show doesn't matter. This means that sure, you're not paying more for your really successful shows, but all those failures, of which in recent years has been most of them, they still get paid all of those residuals, even if nobody is watching the shows. Makes this make a little bit more sense, doesn't it? When you realize they're still paying residuals on these shows that no one will be watching because nobody watched them when they released either. It actually allows people to get rewarded for a show that was so awful nobody saw it, at the same rate as somebody that wrote something that was amazing, which people still watch to this day. That doesn't seem fair for anybody, and that is why I think the WGA's suggestion is a good one. Make it viewership-based. Reward the people who are writing shows that people want to see, and it will also punish the ones who write awful things that nobody wants to go and watch. Yeah, I'm looking at you. And this is an approach that seems to unite everybody, except the companies making the content, except Disney. And it's because a truly fair streaming residual system would require greater transparency of streaming viewership. We'd have to know which shows nobody watched in order to know who we shouldn't be paying. But studios are reluctant to do this, to put it mildly. They have a lack of transparency which is worth questioning because the black box they keep around their data actually causes them to lose a great deal of money by keeping the residual formula the same. They lose more money going off subscribers where we've got to pay everybody, even if nobody watches it, as opposed to coming out and just telling people how many people watch their shows. It should be reasonable. I mean, you can see all of my views right beneath the videos, and yet these companies, Disney, refuse to tell anyone about it. They're scared. They will lose money. They will actively destroy their bottom line paying money to people who haven't earned it, rather than tell the audience the truth about how successful, or rather, how unsuccessful all of their shows and their streaming service really is. Now let's face it, do we think Disney are scared of telling the writers that their show sucked and nobody watched it? No, I don't think so. What about the audience? Maybe they don't want to tell the audience that it sucked and nobody watched it. I'm not sure they'd be bothered about that either. No, instead, companies should have a duty to make profit, and they have a legal duty to one party in particular. That would be the investors. A company cares about its stock price because it is legally required to do best by its investors. And I'm saying that knowing that Disney's stock price has been plummeting over the last few years, and yes, there are good reasons why it was at its peak here back in 2021. But it's still true that it's come down from $197 a share in March 2021 to almost $93 now. I think we can all understand with a drop that badly why they don't want to drop it some more. And so I think there's only one conclusion you can come to. If we have a duty to keep our stock price high, our stock price is driven by profits, and we are burning profits by paying writers money they don't deserve on shows that nobody watches, then it only means one thing, that telling the truth would be even worse, and it would have an even worse impact on the stock price, which means the viewership on their TV shows is so bad that they would rather pay writers more residuals than they should do just to keep it a secret. And these are created by the same writers that are on strike for more money and don't want AI to actively come in and improve their work and replace them, despite the fact that obviously they're so talented that AI couldn't possibly compete with them, and we're not scared about it at all replacing us, which is why you need to ban it so you can't replace us with it.
The AI needs us. It can't do a single thing without using our humanity as input, and that means we have an advantage.
Look, when you gather all of these topics into one place in one video, can't you now fully understand why Disney is lurching from one problem to another constantly? And I think there's only one man you can blame for it. When you've ruled a company as CEO for 18 years, all of the problems are your fault. And if all of those problems stem from the employees within your company, you have to ask, why haven't you done something about it? Why haven't you changed your hiring practices? Why haven't you changed the values of your company? Why haven't you come out and said that this is not allowed? That the people, the ideas, the corporate culture has to change. And the only way we're going to do that is by hiring through merit rather than the entire grand list of everything we've come up with so far. Because I can't help thinking that Hollywood is supposed to be the best place for entertainment in the world. It's supposed to have the most talented people in the world. And it definitely doesn't. This is what happens when you actively go about trying to include everybody. Everybody shouldn't be there. Everybody doesn't have talent. And when you want to force those people into a writer's room where they couldn't get there if it was a smaller writer's room because they don't have the talent, then you're inevitably watering down the talent of that show and every other show in the first place. The WGA strike wants to bake in these problems to every single production from now until the end of time. And maybe there's a solution. Maybe the CEO has even already seen it and agreed with it, called it highly disruptive. There's substantial benefits, but let's face it, do you think he even has the cojones to do anything about it? Because he hasn't so far in 18 15 years. And so Disney certainly has a problem, which is always followed on by another problem, but when it's caused by the people at the core of your company, when everybody's trying to keep that core there, even at the cost of everybody else, including voice actors, translators, and everything, they all get thrown out of the bus just to protect the people causing the issues. Well, you only come back with one solution. The CEO can't keep trying to cover up the problems. And so either he deals with the people at the core of the company that are causing the problems, or you need another CEO. Because you briefly had a different CEO. Yeah, he may have been involved in a lot of the same issues himself, but I don't know how Disney can fix itself by constantly going back to the past. Because so far, their modern version of their old CEO is going down exactly as well as the modern version of their old IPs. And until something changes, I don't think Disney can change. And that doesn't bode well for their stock price or the long-term quality of their entertainment. But those are just my thoughts. What are yours? Let me know down in the comments below. Like the video if you like the video. Subscribe. More videos like this in the future, and I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.